Good morning, Lowell High School community, and thank you for joining today's webinar to honor the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Lowell High School is one of the most diverse schools in the state of Massachusetts. With this rich diversity comes the opportunity to celebrate our history and the history of our dynamic country so that we can appreciate the past and honor those who serve to combat and address injustices, racism, and equity issues. During this era of social unrest, it is as important as ever that our school and community unite to embrace our differences and recognize our commonalities. Today, we gather to learn more about others in the community, including today's guest speaker, who are modeling the spirit and humanity of the inspiring work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I would like to thank our staff, Yvette Cheeks and Brianna Laughlin, and students from the Black Unity Club, and the members of the Climate and Culture Committee who organized this event. Without further ado, I'm excited to present LHS teacher and advisor for the Black Unity Club, Ms. Brianna Laughlin, who will introduce our esteemed guest speaker. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and to our LHS community at large. First, I want to thank Yvette Cheeks for setting up this wonderful opportunity to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And I want to thank Matt and Jada for attending so readily for this speaker. My name is Brianna Laughlin. I am an English teacher at Lowell High, and I run the Black Unity Club. Black Unity Club is a place where all Lowell High School students can gather to discuss and learn about all facets of being Black in America. It's also a place where students can share their stories and connect with one another. I want to invite any and all LHS students who are interested in joining us. Please send me an email at blaughlin@lowell.k12.ma.us. We would be happy to have you there, and we hope to grow our community in the Black Unity Club. And now I will turn it over to Black Unity Club President, Jada Turner.
Good morning. As Ms. Laughlin said, I'm the president of the Black Unity Club, and today I'm going to introduce to you Ms. Jeanette Ecanum. Jeanette Ecanum is an associate at the law firm Hirsch Roberts Weinstein, where she represents businesses, nonprofits, human service providers, colleges, universities, and other entities in the variety of employment law matters. In 2020, attorney Ecanum was selected to Super Lawyers, Rising Stars, and is recognized in the 2021 edition of Best Lawyers in America, Ones to Watch. In 2019, Massachusetts Lawyers Weekly honored attorney Ecanum as an up-and-coming lawyer, and she received the Distinguished Young Alumni Award from Clark University. Attorney Ecanum is currently the president of the Massachusetts Black Women Attorneys Association and serves on various diversity and inclusion committees within the legal community. Attorney Ecanum holds a BA in Government and International Relations, magna cum laude, and a Master of Public Administration from Clark University. She also holds a Juris Doctor from Northeastern University School of Law. And now I will hand it over to you, Jeanette.
Good morning. Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of your Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. For many decades, many Americans have lived under the false belief that Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream has been a dream fulfilled, that people are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. We all know that sadly, that is not the case. You only have to turn on the news or log on to Instagram to see another video of an unarmed Black man experiencing police brutality, or to see a person of color being accused of stealing, to know that even in 2021, we are judged by the color of our skin and not the content of our character. As recently as last week, we saw a mob brutally attempt to overthrow our government and threaten our democracy. And the mob was referred to as protesters and given direct access to our Capitol, access and treatment that we know firsthand would have been different had the attackers been Black or other people of color. I grew up in a predominantly white suburb of Boston, the daughter of an African-American mother and a Nigerian father. As early as the young age of 4, I was brutally awakened to the fact that I would be treated differently because of the color of my skin. On one occasion in preschool, I was outside during recess playing with a few classmates. One of my classmates told me that my skin looked like mud. Even at the tender age of 4, I felt humiliated. Even a 4-year-old knows that mud is seen as nasty, dirty, and undesirable. When my mother caught wind of what happened at school, she opened up every magazine in our house that had Black people on it so that she could not only tell me, but show me that Black is beautiful. I wish I could say that that was the last instance of racism that I experienced, but it's not. In my 8th grade geometry class, we were assigned to create a 3D model so that we could learn our angles. Now, to give you some context, when I was in 8th grade, I lived so close to my school that I actually used to walk to school. On this particular day, since I had to turn in a project, my mother actually drove me to school because the project would have been too challenging to walk with. As soon as I arrived to the school, I went directly to my math teacher's classroom and I placed my project next to the others. Now, flashing forward about a week later, after the teacher graded all of the projects, after class, he came up to me and said, "You never turned in your project." Of course, I looked at him and said, "What are you talking about? I turned in my project just with everyone else." He told me, "No, you never turned in your project and I'm going to give you an F." I said to him, "Well, let's just go over to the other side of the classroom and go look at the projects. I can tell you it's definitely there." That's when he proceeded to tell me that he already graded the projects and he threw all of them away. At that point, I called my mother and told her what happened. She was in disbelief because she remembered driving me to school that day with my project. At that point, my mother called my father. My father showed up to the school and he told the teacher, "Well, since you threw away all of the projects, I guess we're just going to have to search through the trash." That afternoon, my father and I searched through the trash at my middle school. Lo and behold, my project was right there in the trash. At that moment, it was very powerful for me because I learned firsthand the power of advocating for myself and standing in my truth no matter what. So even though that moment was a rude awakening, it was also a teachable moment for me. Despite the teacher's attempts to sabotage me, I prevailed. Even in high school, I experienced racism. I remember taking a modern literature course during my senior year of high school, and a few months before graduation, a teacher made comments on a paper that I submitted, and she told me that I wasn't college material. Due to my experiences, I was forced at an early age to learn the importance of advocating for myself and for other people. Now, don't get me wrong, advocating for yourself and for others can be really challenging. It can be really difficult. And sometimes it might even be easier to advocate for someone else than it is to advocate for yourself. But like with most things in life, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. My passion for advocacy is what motivated me to become a lawyer because I learned firsthand that advocacy can and does make lasting change. There is a quote from MLK's biography that has always resonated with me, and I'll take a moment to read the quote. It says, "Courage is an inner resolution to go forward despite obstacles. Cowardice is submissive surrender to circumstances. Courage breeds creativity. Cowardice represses fear and is mastered by it. Cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right?" And there comes a time when we must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but one must take it because it is right. Though the reality is that not all of MLK's dreams have been fulfilled, and at times that might make you feel hopeless, do not let the feelings of hopelessness overpower you. We all have the power within us to work towards achieving the change that we want to see. Embrace your differences, whatever that they might be. It is okay to stand out. You may even be in a situation right now where you're part of the majority. Perhaps there are a lot of people from your cultural background in your classrooms, or perhaps you have friends of different cultural backgrounds, but you all have similar values. But there will come a time as you continue to grow, go to college, get your first job after college, that you may be the only man or the only woman or the only person of your sexual orientation or the only person of color. Don't let the fact that you are different from someone else or how you think someone may perceive your difference to stand in the way of achieving your goals. And don't be afraid to take a position that is unpopular. In the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr., work to find the courage within yourself to do what you believe is right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that story, Jeanette. I think advocacy for yourself and others is definitely a skill that everybody should strive to achieve, especially in the current world that we live in. And so thank you for that. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Matthew Chege, and I'm a senior at Lowell High School. I've been in the Black Unity Club for 4 years and currently serve as the vice president. We'll now be entering our Q&A session for the next 10 minutes, so feel free to drop any questions you may have in the Q&A box. All right, so the first question is, what was your first big win or achievement that made you feel like you were doing the right thing?
Wow, that's a really great question. I would say, I would even take it back to college. So my first year of college, I went to Clark University out in Worcester. And the first year of college, there was a dean who was called the Dean of Alana Students. So Alana is an acronym that stands for African American, Latino, Asian, Native American students. And so this dean was there to give all different types of support to students of color. So within the first year of college, they actually eliminated this position. And they eliminated this position without giving any notice to students. And it really felt as though at that point, they weren't wanting to give support to students of color, which was support that we definitely needed because it was a predominantly white institution. So I, along with a few other classmates, we actually wrote a petition and we got our classmates to sign it, asking the administration to reinstate the Dean of Alana student position. And, the position definitely wasn't reinstated immediately, but I would still consider it a win because we got the administration's attention. And then many of us who were a part of the petition, we actually ended up forming an advisory committee with the administration. And as students, we started sitting in on interviews for different faculty that were applying for positions to be professors within the university. And then we continued to advocate to reinstate the Dean of Alana student position. And by my junior year, we actually got the position reinstated.
Thank you. I think that all goes back to the advocacy you were talking about earlier, which is so important. Another question is, how do you think your experience in the law field has been different being a Black woman?
Yeah, that's another great question. I think that the experience is, I feel honestly, as a Black person, that there are a lot of stereotypes against us. And so we have to work, not even twice as hard, sometimes 10 times as hard as the next person, as white folks, just to get the acknowledgement and the recognition for doing the same work. So I think it can be really challenging to kind of break down those barriers and kind of being forced to prove yourself over and over again. And I think the other thing is just that, unfortunately, the legal profession still has a long way to go in terms of being inclusive. And I think sometimes people don't realize that because people watch TV shows and they see Black lawyers and whatnot. But honestly, when you're in court or, you show up at meetings, you're often the only, not even the only Black attorney. Sometimes I'm the only attorney of color. There aren't other Asian attorneys, there aren't Latinx attorneys. And so the profession overall has, an issue with diversity and inclusion. So I think sometimes, just being the only person in the room, but at the same time, I use that experience to kind of fuel me. And I do a lot of work with the Massachusetts Black Women Attorneys. I'm actually currently the president. And so we put on a lot of professional development programs, and we do a lot of mentoring for law students and others just to kind of create that pipeline into the profession.
All right, so the next question is, what is the biggest risk you've taken during your career?
Yeah, so the biggest risk that I've taken is right after law school, I knew that I always wanted to practice employment law, but I couldn't really find a job in employment law right away. And so I ended up working for this law firm and I practiced real estate law there. And I had an opportunity to do practice real estate law, but it became clear that it would be hard for me to then transition to practice in a different area of law if I didn't leave the firm. So I ended up leaving the firm and I went to go work for a nonprofit organization called Greater Boston Legal Services. I did a 2-year fellowship with them. And so that was the biggest risk that I took because, going from private sector, I have a lot of student loans from law school, and then going into public interest work. I wasn't sure how that would all play out, but I think it was important to kind of follow my passion. And right now I'm doing, the work that I want to do. So it was a risk that paid off.
Thank you. Another question is, what advice would you give for students entering the workforce, or if you want to specifically the legal scene?
Yeah, my biggest piece of advice is to really just believe in yourself. And that can be really challenging because from things that we see in the media or sometimes even experiences that we've had in school, sometimes it can just be hard to have that confidence. But trust me, you can definitely get the job done. And I think so it's important to follow your passions, to believe in yourself. And, I think another important thing is to seek out mentors, seek out people who are genuinely interested in advising you and want to see you grow. And I even say sometimes think outside the box. If there's someone who has a career or an interesting job and you want to follow that path, just email the person, search them, Google them. There are so many people I've just literally looked them up online. I've emailed them and I've said, hey, I want to reach out to you. I want to meet with you. I'd like to speak to you about your career and learning how maybe I can navigate that. And, you know, you might reach out to people. Not everyone's going to respond. Sometimes I've reached out to maybe 5 people and I got 2 responses or I got 1 response, but you really only need 1 response. So I think that it is really important to just think outside the box and take chances, because the worst thing that you can do, in my opinion, is not take the chance and then you might regret it. Because if you do take the chance and you don't get it, you won't be any worse off. So you might as well just at least try.
All right, so the last question here is, who inspires you or has served as one of your role models?
Yeah, my mother actually has really inspired me, and she's one of my role models. She's someone who has also taken a lot of risks in her career and has tried different things, and it's definitely something that's paid off for her. But more than just thinking about career, you know, one of the reasons that she really inspires me is because she's someone who lives her life with integrity, which I think is so important. I think it's important to be able to, at the end of the day, really be able to live and sit with your positions and the decisions that you've made.
So thank you. I thought those questions were wonderful. And I know I have my my first period classroom in here. I think that was excellent advice for them to hear. So I think now we're going to close out with Mr. Fiato.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Attorney Ikanum. I hope I said that right.
You did.
All right. In recognition of your work, your body of work, and also being here today, we want to present you with an award, which is in the form of a certificate virtually that will be, I think, sent to your house by Ms. Cheeks. I also want to say the last comment that you made about reaching out to individuals that may be able to support our students in terms of career exploration or just in terms of finding out more about their background is an unbelievably under-resourced idea, because it costs nothing to do that. And it also, as adults, I think we're often very eager to support young people, especially those that take a risk and reach out and want to learn more, because who doesn't love talking about themselves? And so I want to encourage our young people on the call today. And in addition to adults as well, there are mentors out there that maybe not officially consider themselves mentors until they're being asked, until they thrust into that opportunity. So that was also great advice, in addition to all of the things that you said. Thank you to everyone who joined. Thank you to our students who attended, Jada and Matt for facilitating the discussion. And we hope to continue with these types of discussions as we move on. So if there are any other opportunities that we see where we can bring our community together to engage in these types of conversations, I definitely encourage it, especially in our virtual world when we don't have the opportunities to see each other or be in person. We need to explore other ways to bring our community together. So let's keep those doors open for those types of discussions to continue. Thank you very much. Attorney Kanem, any last words?
Yeah, I would also just like to say thank you for having me. And please feel free, if there are any students who want to reach out, we can have a virtual Zoom, phone conversation, what have you. I'd be happy to speak with you about anything.
Well, we might have to bring you back for our career day and activities like that. So thank you. And also, finally, without Melinda Pires, who's behind the scenes as our instructional technologist, making sure that we're all able to log in and get this Zoom meeting up and running. Thank you for your continued support behind the scenes. Well, that concludes our Martin Luther King Jr. Lowell High School commemoration. We thank you for joining, and we will absolutely look forward to seeing you again. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.